Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to a very snowy morning out here in Oregon for the Thanksgiving holiday. By the time you see this, it will have been past Thanksgiving, so I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. And we're out here just kind of hiking the trails up above my parents' place. This is an area that I've hiked several times, and I've taken a few photographs out here too, and you guys have seen a few from past videos. But we got up super early this morning and we decided to come up and go check out this one area that I've never photographed before. And we'll get to that a little ways in the video here. But we were coming up the trail, and the snow was picking up, and it's getting all thick and fluffy and watery. And I kind of turned around, and I noticed this big kind of, I don't know if it's a bush or some kind of tree, but it's standing there kind of on a hill, and what drew my attention was there's some rocks. If we can bring the GoPro in here a little bit, there's some rocks down here in the foreground, and they were kind of just juxtapositioned in ways that it's like, that could be a bit of an interesting photo. So I just plopped my tripod down on the trail here and been working with the composition. Shot it a few different ways. Right now I've got this on a 1:1 aspect ratio, try and simplify things down. This has been a bit tricky. I haven't shot in snow in so long, so it's hard to get the balance right of motion blur from the snow while trying to freeze, the limbs of the trees. There was a little bit of a breeze earlier, so everything was kind of moving around, so that proved to be tricky. It's been a very interesting setup trying to get all my settings right and dialed in and getting the muscle memory for working in snow flowing again. But I think we've managed to get not a bad image to kind of get the creative juices flowing and get the brain working again, because it's been a few weeks since I've been out and doing photography. So, and what better day to be out early in the morning than a day when the snow is coming down. I heard the forecast yesterday. The snow was supposed to start around 7 o'clock. I got up this morning to let the dog out, and it was already raining, and I was just like, ooh, we might get really lucky this morning. So overall, first image, not too bad. Just show you guys my settings real quick. I'm at f10, ISO 400, because I was trying to get a little bit of motion blur with the snow. I was at ISO 160 on the Fuji. It was it wasn't showing any motion at all. The snow was just kind of gone. The falling snow was just kind of gone. So ISO 400, managed to get a little bit of motion blur, and then 1.3 second shutter speed. Again, decent amount of motion blur. It's a little bit muddy, but I think I'll be able to bring that back in post. Anyway, not a bad, kind of a cute little image to show the wintry wonderland that is now falling all around us. Tell you folks, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but the snow just opens up all kinds of possibilities right now. My girlfriend and I were walking down the trail here, heading towards this location that I wanted to take photos of this morning, and I had to stop. Who doesn't enjoy a good trail shot, right? I think we all enjoy a good trail shot. If I was still on Instagram, I'm sure this would be an Insta favorite. Probably not, but whatever. I'm really liking this photo. So I'll bring this in just a little bit here, and as you can see, we've got this section of trees here and actually the screen might be too bright. Let me darken that down so you guys can see. Okay, there we go. So what we got going on here is we've got this section of trees here that are just lining the trail, and what I really like about them is they've got if you look at this tree right here, it's got a little bit of a bend to it. It's arced, probably because of the way the tree started growing, and then wind, because we're on a bit of a slope here, so the wind kind of affecting the growth of the trees, and also just the natural topography. And then like the big draw to this image that I really like, and let me see if I can darken this down just a bit more so we can get a little bit more visible there. It's still kind of hard to see because of the snow, but the trail is right here, and then the trail just goes in behind these trees and out and back, and it kind of gives you that feeling of where are you headed to. And then there's a few other elements. If you look kind of up in here, we've got a tree that's kind of bent over, and then we've got another tree that kind of intersects up. And it's, I don't know, it's shots like this get me really excited. And I probably could have walked past this. In fact, I did walk past this yesterday and didn't really think anything about it, but there was no snow yesterday. The snow just makes everything that much better. The only problem with this image, actually there's two problems. One, there's a stick or a weed or something that's poking out in front of the camera here, and I'm just gonna have to Photoshop that out. That's not gonna be hard at all. There's one other big issue that I have with the shot, if I brighten this back up, and you may not be able to see it, but there's a black spray paint band on the tree. This forest has been logged in the past, and I think what that black spray paint means is that the Forest Service was originally going to log that tree, or a lumber company, whoever was going to log that tree, but it was decided that that one would actually be left in place, so the black mark means that that tree is not going to be taken down, which is great because that means I'm able to capture this image. And snow is starting to come down a little bit more heavier, so I'm gonna really quickly, settings, still at ISO 400 because I'm trying to get a little bit of motion blur in the snow. It's so fine right now, it's really not probably gonna get picked up, but I'm still okay with it. I've gone with an aperture of f11 to give me a pretty good depth of field. Things are gonna be a little bit soft in this shot, but that's because the snow is giving us some atmosphere, which is great. I'm perfectly okay with things being soft because of a snowy atmosphere. And then a shutter speed I've gone with 2 seconds. That is mostly just so I get the right amount of light into the shot, but also get a little bit of motion blur with the snow. It may work, it may not work. It just depends on how fine that snow is. And right now it's a little bit less flaky or it's a little bit less clumpy than it was when it was coming down about 10 minutes ago. But still, what more could you ask for? Alrighty, so we have made it to the little, what my mom likes to call, what does she call it? The Fairy Glen, Fairy Grove?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Anyway, so it's this group of just big, mossy boulders. This is almost something you would see on the western side of Oregon. Not really something you'd see on the eastern side of Oregon. But it's here, and it's really, really, really cool. And, we were hiking through yesterday, and I saw a spot that I was like, ooh, I want to come back tomorrow morning and get a photo of this, not knowing it was going to be snowing tomorrow, but that's even better. But we're walking up, and we're about to walk down the section of trail that takes you past it, and I noticed this little sapling out here, and I was like, ooh, that's a really cool looking little sapling. And I'm starting to think, Thomas Heaton or Simon Baxter kind of photo. And so I'm just kind of looking to see how I can frame this up, and I'm sure I didn't do it nearly as good a justice as they would have. But what I've done is I've kind of come just a little bit down the hill right here, and I've framed up my shot, and I've actually gone back to a 3:2 ratio. I might crop that into a 4:5 or a 1:1. I can't decide right now. But what I've done is I've put the sapling off here to the left-hand side of the frame, kind of almost left center, but just a little bit off. And then we've got a few mossy boulders and some pine trees and stuff. There's just a dusting of snow on the tree, a dusting of snow on the trail, on the leaves on the ground, a little bit on the bigger pine trees. And it's just, I don't know, something about this is appealing. It's probably not the best shot of the day, but something about it was just really appealing, and I wanted to stop and I wanted to take that photograph. And you know that impulse, you want to stop and take the photograph. You got to do it. So again, the only thing that's bothering me about this shot, and it's showing up on several of the trees here, is we've got some of the black, if you look kind of right there, some of the black bands, which means I think these trees were saved from being logged. But that shouldn't be too difficult to Photoshop out. It's going to be, and I know in this section of the forest here, they're going to be all over. So just going to have to do a little bit more heavy-handed in Photoshop, but it's not to, falsify something. It's just to make it look how it was before the, loggers wanted to come in and take everything down. And then everybody was like, no, leave it. Thank you to the people who fought to have these trees stay here. This would not be such a cool place without it. Well, it didn't take me very long. I've managed to find a composition that I really like out here in the, we're going to call it the fairy Glen. And what we've got, well, first off, we've got another little sapling right here, another little pine sapling that's kind of anchoring the bottom right-hand corner of the image. And then we've got this big moss-covered boulder that's got pine trees and green moss and a little dusting of snow on it out there in kind of the middle of the image. Kind of looks like it got thrown there by, I don't know, a giant or something. Maybe it was a giant's golf ball and that's where it landed. It's out here in the rough. And then we've got another giant boulder out there. It kind of looks like it's got a shelf, and it's got moss and grass growing on it. It's got a nice dusting of snow on it, and we've got some snow-covered landscape out there in the background. A few of these young trees. I don't know what they are. Without their leaves, I really can't identify them, but they're there. One's kind of bent over with the I think not because of snow, but it's just bent over. I think just that's how it ended up. And then the big kind of what I'm using to frame this image is I've got these two big trees out here. One's framing the right hand side of the image. That's the left hand side, Ryan. One's framing the left hand side of the image. One's framing the right hand side of the image. And I feel like it gives it a good anchor for the shot. And it's it looks almost like a painterly kind of shot, like somebody saw this and would sit down with their canvas and start painting it. I don't know, that's what it feels like to me. So I've taken a few different shots, 1 1/3 of a second, f11, and actually, I'm not sure. It was I'm so used to my Canon how it would show me the settings here. I think that's 1/3 of a second shutter speed, and then f11. And then I'm at ISO 160, the base ISO for this camera. I'm focusing on the big boulder right there in the center. Just gonna take my focus there and 2-second timer. And boom, there's the shot. This one I am pretty happy with. I think when we were walking through here, there was one more image that I wanted to capture. We're gonna walk around for just a little bit longer, see if there's any other scenes we wanna take photographs of. But as of right now, this has been a really productive morning. The snow is starting to let off here. It's kind of turning more into, I don't know, sleet maybe. It just feels like raindrops hitting my head instead of the snow bursts that we were getting earlier. But you know what? Take advantage of the conditions when you can. This has been awesome. Alright, so we've kind of come around to the other side of the fairy Glen, and what I've done is I've set up my camera here, put the camera on a vertical orientation, and I'm shooting back kind of down towards the trail. We were hiking this yesterday, And I kind of look back, it's like, oh, I bet that would make a really good photograph. And this was the photograph I wanted to come back and get this morning. And this is one example of where the snow actually kind of, I like the snow, but it's kind of covered up the part that would be a good like leading line into the image. The trail section that kind of bends around that kind of big boulder right there. It's kind of obscuring things, kind of making things a little bit bland, washed out, however you want to phrase it. So that part isn't really helping too much. It's still really a really interesting image because we've got this kind of almost, it looks like somebody like took a bunch of rocks and kind of built up a little fence right there. And then we've got the big boulder out there in the background. We've got the trees that kind of shoot off into the distance there, kind of the right-hand side of the image. Or left hand going into the right-hand side of the image, I should say. And then what we've got just a nice dusting of snow out there in the background. Now, I tried to frame this up several different ways, and this was the way that I liked the best. Again, I think in this instance, the snow actually hasn't helped us because it's covered up a section of the trail there. Yeah, so not as thrilled. We've gotten better images today than this one. But you know what? I'm not going to complain because we've got snow on the ground. There's snow in the trees. It's a lovely, lovely it almost sets the Christmas mood, right? By the time this video comes out, we'll be past Thanksgiving and into Christmas. So not going to complain about that, huh? All right, well, sometimes the shots you like the most are the shots you never expected to get. After I got done taking that shot over there, I was kind of just looking around just to see if there was anything else that I really kind of liked and found interesting about this little fairy Glen, as we're calling it. Are we calling it Fairy Glen or Fairy Grove? I can't remember.
Glen.
Fairy Glen. Okay. And I was looking around, and I looked back towards these. I have no idea what kind of trees these are. They were in one of the shots earlier, but at that point, they were just kind of like the background element. Now I've kind of walked in here and made one of these trees the center focus. And what really drew my attention to it was the fact of just the spider web quality that the snow has put on the branches, because there's no leaves on it. So it's bare to the world. There is some moss and lichen and stuff on the tree, but just the spider web quality of the snow on the branches there. And when I was framing it up, and I was thinking, I was really struggling to frame this up because I was like, there's got to be a shot with this. And sometimes I just get in that mode where I'm like, there's got to be a shot. There's got to be something I can capture here. And I finally settled on a composition where I had zoomed in. I'm at 55 millimeters, which is the farthest out this lens can zoom. And it was just enough, and I actually framed it up originally as a 1-to-1 ratio. And then I went to take some video of it to explain what I'm seeing here, and it turns out the 16:9 ratio actually looks really, really, really good. So I think that's the composition. Originally, I wanted to isolate everything just to that tree, but when I went to the 16:9, we've got a nice framing of another tree off to the left-hand side, a pine tree, and then we've got another one of these. Again, I don't know what kind of trees these are. Off to the right-hand side, so a left-hand framing and a right-hand framing. And it really lends itself well to narrowing out a piece of the scene for this tree. So I'm actually really happy. I'm really excited to take this one back to Lightroom and Photoshop and play with it and see. I don't feel like I'm going to have to do much post-processing with this image. But yeah, I'm really excited about this image. And I'm starting to get really hungry, so I'm going to take one last photo here, and we should be good to go. Heard my stomach right there. Might be time for breakfast. Say this. Oh my god, really? Girlfriend's making faces behind the camera. It's alright. Anyway, overall I feel like it's been a pretty good morning. I really honestly expected just to get like 1 or 2 photos out here this morning, and I've gotten, I don't know, I've lost count, 5 or 6 or something like that. So and the conditions this morning, I could not have asked for better. It's, you know, waking up with snow coming down and then getting photos in the snow, and out here in this really cool looking little fairy glade or fairy Glen, whichever we were calling it. I don't know, I have the memory of a goldfish. Just absolutely fun morning to be out here. I could not have hoped for better. The sun's coming up, it's starting to warm up a bit, so now the snow is starting to kind of melt, and it's starting to turn into more like rain than snow. And we're both really hungry, so I think we're gonna wrap up this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed the images from today's photo. I really had a good time coming out here and taking the photos. It felt really good to get some nice wintry photos in a really cool location that I've walked through a few times but never taken photos of. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think, yeah, we're gonna head back to my parents' place. We're gonna eat breakfast because we're starving. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you are new to this channel, or if you're finding this channel and you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so maybe next time I post a video, you'll get notified. And yeah, I think that's everything. So time to get on back down the trail. So I will see you guys on the next one. Whoop.